It was a long time ago. That day, we 5 city orphans were coming down the road in Father Curly's Ford, just as the sun was rising. But our excitement was all on the inside. On the outside, we must have looked very frightened. We didn't realize that adults can be nervous too. Father Curly told us how he and Adam had grown up together on neighboring farms. Now Adam was a widower and a lonely man, considered strange and aloof by his neighbors. We had learned to know and love Father Curly, who had talked and argued and wheedled with the city orphanage authorities until he got permission to take us to the farm. Tim was a cheerful, sturdy little city weed, and if you put his hat on Annie, the smallest girl, and put Annie's hat on him, they wouldn't have looked too much unlike each other. Jean was the eldest and did her best to mother the rest of us. Suzanne was just old enough to feel grown up in her fancy new bonnet. At a crucial point in our awkwardness, Father Curly, who always knew more things about you than you thought he did, and understood people, asked me to play. The others looked anxiously from me to Adam, and then for the first time we saw his wide, warm, friendly grin. Father Curly left us, saying he'd be back in 2 weeks, which seemed an eternity away. That first day was one of exploration, ending with the discovery of the magic of a barn. And that night we went to sleep, listening to the soft lament of pigeons, far up under the ridgepole, marveling at the fields and woods, silent and a bit scary as a night mist settled over the land. Jean and I followed Adam cautiously to his place up on the ridge by the old rail fence and heard him play to the rising sun. We sensed that this was almost a sacred spot for Adam. He played as if he really were making the sun rise. Our work on the farm began the next day. Adam was a skillful farmer with an endless knowledge of crops and soil. I can still remember how surprised I was to learn that a tomato is formed from a flower. Adam told us that corn belonged to the grass family. He showed us how those tassels standing up like stiff cords at the top of the plant were really flowers, and how pollen from them drifted down in dry, breezy, sunny weather to another kind of flower below, the long, silky hairs that would produce the kernels that make up a corn cob. There were other things we learned on the farm by ourselves. We realized now that playing to the morning sun was very important to Adam, and it was becoming more important to us, as if his music joined the sun and mingled with its warmth across the land to become part of a new day. Perhaps Adam played with special feeling that Sunday morning, in gratitude for having children around him. We learned that for Adam, Sunday was a day to pause and give thanks for gifts we all take for granted. The gifts of sunshine, flowers, the beauty of the land. He had a simple religious feeling of a man who had worked with nature and was dependent on it. Chad showed us where to find crayfish and the jewelweed that popped when we touched it, and watercress. We admired his knowledge and liked everything about him, except for his one awful defect, his habit of mooning over Jean. Adam had not been able to look after all the things on the farm, and we helped him catch up with his work. The girls learned how to use a washboard. Adam made it all the more interesting, showing us how things were made, and sometimes how mankind first discovered them. He showed us how to make soap by first letting water seep through the ashes from a wood fire, and how he boiled the solution, which he called potash, with fat, and poured the mixture into molds to cool into big cakes of soap. Sometimes, though tired from a hard day's work, Adam would play his harmonica for me. Adam explained that for generations the harmonica had been an instrument on which poor people had played their songs. I learned from him what a harmonica could do and how to cup my hand and get a sound like a tremolo on a piano. He showed me the thin white leather valves, he called them wind savers, and showed me that the fine brass reeds called tongues were different lengths and that blowing on them made them vibrate in and out of the openings inside the harmonica. She had watched us and often helped us, and was still very much in love. Sometimes Adam and I went for walks by ourselves, and he told me what farming meant to him. He told me how he had sat up at night in the barn by lantern light, helping a cow give birth to her calf. Tim and I set about plotting another joke. We found a bag of flour in the barn, an old feed sack, and a piece of fence wire, which was perfect for sewing up our ingenious triggering device, which, with a tug on the rope, would empty the sack on the victim below. We were happy and busy. It seemed strange now that we had once been worried whether Adam would like us. Then, unbelievably, it was the evening before Father Curly was to call for us, to take us back to the orphanage and that life of gloomy corridors where bells ordered us to our meals at long tables and signaled us to go to bed. At last morning, we knew we would each miss something that had a special personal meaning. I think to Jean, the visit to the farm had meant feeling that she had a home of her own, where she could share some of the responsibility of running a household. And Susanna would miss being able to share in this and to perform her own womanly chores. I had become engrossed with the work in the fields and stables and in nature and the land. Annie, the youngest girl, would have to leave the only pet she ever had. Tim, in spite of our earlier pranks, had made a special friend of Chad. But most of all, we would all miss Adam. Adam looked towards the spot where the sun would rise, as if he didn't care whether it rose that morning. He looked up to every movement on the horizon, as if looking for the first sign of Father Curly's Ford to take us out of his life. I know now what a wrench to Adam's whole being were his thoughts of this parting. The thought of that farm left empty without the sound of our voices, the laughter and jokes and questions, already were affecting his very body. When I made for that old tree up by the snake fence, there were a few clouds in the sky, all turning pink. And I remember half hoping that if I played in Adam's place, Father Curly's Ford wouldn't arrive. I'll always think of Father Curly with love for the many things he did for us, but above all for the one quick, shrewd decision he made that morning when we were left on the farm that we would remember for the rest of our lives as home.